Welcome to Paulie'S TV. I'm Paulie Malignaggi. Sometimes I get questions about, people starting out boxing or how do they, should their approach be in the gym, or even little tips, right? So I'll tell you what, people sometimes start boxing to get fit, to get in shape, and sometimes people start boxing in order to compete, to get ahead and get into amateur boxing and start fighting, competing, and see how far they can go. There's different approaches. If you're going there to get in shape, sure, you want to learn the basics, you want to learn to box. It's not so important to get it perfect, but of course you want to do it right. You want to be able to still, maybe use it as a form of self-defense when you're out in public and whatnot. And of course, if you want to compete, it's all the more important to get it right. There's certain factors and certain things that I remembered when I went and started boxing that I thought of. One of the first things I told myself, no matter what I feel, no matter what fist fights I've been in before, I know nothing. I'm going to go in here, I'm going to become a sponge. So it's important to, have a trainer who, when and if you become a sponge, they know what they're doing. Especially if you plan on competing, it's all the more important that you have a trainer that maybe has had some success with boxers who have competed, or maybe he's boxed himself and whatnot, and has done this and can teach you from the aspect of competition, because that's all the more important to get it right. It's important to do that. And you got to be a sponge with the trainer. I think assuming you know anything is the worst thing you can do, because it's going to just block you from learning. I think you let the trainer put you in position. You let the trainer balance you out. Let the trainer, you set your hands in position and you punch from that position. Another thing I remember starting out early, I remember thinking, maximize my straight punches first. The hooks and the uppercuts and all the other shots are obviously the harder punches to learn, the more complicated punches to learn, because distances change. You put yourself at risk of taking certain shots if you throw those punches. So you've got to have a bit more experience in order to master those other punches. Not just from the perspective of landing those shots, but also from the perspective of putting yourself in danger just by throwing them. Straight punches are quicker. Fastest point to a target is a straight line or something like that. I don't know how that saying goes, but I know it's something like that. And so your jab and your cross, having a good jab and a good cross with balanced feet, good balanced feet and good proper fundamental footwork is important, because you can kind of skate in and skate out of range the way you need to, and also be able to use those quick, sharp, straight punches. I remember starting boxing at 16, and by 17 years old, less than a year later, I won the New York Golden Gloves in the novice division. And if you watch any of those old fights I was fighting, they were mostly won with my ability to have an instinct of timing, good footwork, and straight punches. Obviously other punches had to come along later on, but for the most part, I made a whole career out of, having good straight shots, So I think mastering those basic straight shots and straight fundamental punches with balance, because your balance is important, because it's going to set you into different distances and give you the ability to protect yourself coming out of distance, and when you get in distance, to be able to maximize your punches by obviously throwing the proper straight punches. Arching punches, don't fall off balance, those shots, you want to make sure you're doing it right. If you're doing it right, you're going to be able to have some success just on that alone. Then, as you gain experience, you learn to obviously start to include the other shots, the other punches, and start to get an understanding of when to use those other punches. But you never go away from those straight shots, because those straight shots are typically the shots that you're going to use a lot. Unless, of course, you become one of these banging type of fighters, you might have that mentality, and then you want to get close, you want to get inside, and obviously you want to start using those shorter shots, those other different punches. But even if you are that kind of fighter, you've still got to get from a long distance to a short distance. You got to get close enough. And you're not going to be able to just get close enough just on figuring, hey, I want to get close to this guy, let me get close and hit him. He's not going to let you get close. Not everybody's going to let you get that close. They're going to use their footwork, and they're going to use their weapons. So you still have to know the straight punches and how to use them in order to close the gap regardless. So learning the straight punches for me is always important as your first tools you learn, along with your footwork, along with those simple fundamentals. Hands high, obviously, hands up, guard high. And from there you go. And people are going to say, oh, well, Paul, you didn't fight with your hands high. I used to say the same thing. I used to say, Muhammad Ali doesn't fight with his hands high, or Floyd Mayweather doesn't fight with his hands high. You learn the proper fundamentals, and then as you gain experience, you're able to kind of get away from them a little bit and get away with mistakes, because you cannot break the rules unless you first understand the rules. Not knowing the rules, remember, it's not just knowing the rules, you have to understand the rules first. So in order to break them, you have to first understand the rules. That way you can once you understand them, you'll also have an understanding of when you're able to break them and when you're not able to break them. I was a guy who fought with a guard a little bit low, especially my lead hand. So I prefer to fight on the outside. If you're on the inside, if you're a guy who comes forward, a pressure fighter, you got to have your guard higher because you're going to the attack. You're going to the danger, and you can't go to the danger with your hands down. If you're a fighter who fights in retreat and you're at a distance, okay, you can start getting away with that once you've already learned the proper fundamentals of having your hands high. That when you start, you want to learn the proper textbook fundamentals before you get away from them. If you notice that's what works for you. Lastly, but not leastly, for sure, you've got to relax. All of this doesn't matter if you don't have an ability to relax. Because once you're in the ring with somebody, especially once you start sparring, your initial emotions are always you're gonna be a little tight. No matter how much you've started to learn and relax on the bag, you may have been hitting the bag for a while, and now you're kind of getting it. You know, whatever it is, you're getting those straight punches, that balance. You might be getting it. You might be feeling good. Once you've got a live guy in front of you and he's throwing punches back at you and he's moving in different directions, you know, your nerves start to get the better of you a little bit, so you will be a little tight. It's natural. Don't get frustrated. Don't get frustrated if you don't get it right away. Part of understanding and learning is to learn from mistakes. You can't learn anything unless you first make the mistakes. It's unfortunate. You know, I don't think you can properly learn something that you try that's new, like boxing or like anything else, without going through the mistake phase. But understanding the fundamentals, understanding the rules, and then will allow you to understand what you're doing wrong. And a good trainer will do that too. In the beginning, fundamentals are important. Proper balance, proper hand positioning, and I'd say master your straight punches first, because from the outside, they're the quickest shots to the target. And even if you want to be an inside fighter, you still got to learn the straight punches in order to close the gap. Because you can't just walk in against an opponent. He's going to meet you with punches. So you got to still figure out a way to close the gap from the outside to the inside. And it's the straight punches that will close the gap for you. And now those are my takes on boxing for beginners. Simple, keep it simple, relax, and get those fundamentals right.